Welcome, Wayward Souls at the Double Tap In, Episode 1. We are excited to be here, and we hope that you are too. Um, Today, we're going to start with one of the first things that we talked about, and one of the first things that kind of brought this whole thing together, and that's smoking meats and making some tasty foods. So, Mike, what do you think is the easiest thing to smoke?
The easiest thing to smoke, in my opinion, is going to be a pork butt. A
Okay.
nice Boston butt
Okay.
is probably going to be the easiest thing for someone getting started to do.
Okay. All right. Um, So when you go to the store, what are you looking at? Let's start there. Let's start to finish, cradle to grave.
So when I go to the store to look for a pork butt, I want something that is in the 8 pound range, 9 pound range. When I pick the piece of meat up, I want to rotate it. And when I rotate it, I'm looking for a fat cap that is not overly thick. And by overly thick, I'm talking probably around a half an inch or so. You'll see a nice piece of white fat that goes across the top. As I rotate it, I'm looking for marbling. I'm looking for the fat that courses through the piece of meat, and it'll look like white little spider veins that go all through it. Once I find a piece of meat that I like, then we come home, and there are several trains of thought on how to proceed from here. I'm of the train of thought that I'm going to open the package, I'm going to season it immediately, and I'm going to place it on the smoker. There are some, and I know you're one of these guys that uses a binder,
Mm-hmm.
and you've done several that looked absolutely fantastic using mayonnaise,
Yeah.
using mustard, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing. So, however you choose, that's up to you. And experimentation is the best form of education. Is don't limit yourself by saying, "Oh, he does it this way and he does it this way." So once I do that, it goes directly on the smoker. Once I season it, it goes directly on the smoker. Seasoning is your choice. Again, experimentation is your friend. My process is once it goes on the smoker, I keep an eye on it. I don't open the lid all the time. I have a rough idea that probably 4 hours in, I'll take a peek. I don't spritz. I don't use a water bowl. I don't use any of that. And it should be around 167 to 170 degrees. And I look at the color. And when that color is a deep, rich mahogany kind of color, I know that I can go ahead and do my second step, which I'll place it into an aluminum pan.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add some liquid to it, mostly vinegar, maybe
Mm-hmm.
apple juice, something like that. And then I'll seal it up with aluminum foil and basically do a braise with it. That really, the vinegar really breaks down the fat. It helps break down the membranes that hold everything together. I take it to a temperature of at least 203 degrees. Now, here's the thing: collagen breaks down at 203 degrees. That's what
Mm-hmm.
will cause it to really fall apart. Not every piece of meat's the same.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you'll get one that you've taken to the 203 and it won't fall apart. So I do a probe test. I take my Insta-Read and I stick it in and I'll make sure it's good and tender. If it's not, I'll let it stay on to 205, 206, whatever it takes till I get that probe tenderness that I'm looking for. Once I get there, I take it off. I'll let it rest for, I'll let the temperature drop well into the mid 100s. I don't go below 140, but I'll let it go to the mid 100s. That allows it to stay moist. It reabsorbs some of that moisture that got cooked out, so to speak. And then I'll shred it and pull it. And it's usually pretty tasty. You have a choice at that point of whether or not you want to reseason or not. Once you break that meat up,
Mm-hmm.
you can absolutely reseason it, add more seasoning to it just to kick your flavor up a notch. And that's my process pretty much start to finish.
All right.
How does yours go?
So very similar. Obviously, when I was getting into the meat smoking process, spent a lot of time on the phone with you, and I still cooking a brisket, cooking a pork butt, whatever it is. If I'm trying something different, I'll shoot you a text, give you a call, see what your thoughts are, what you've done in that situation. So pretty similar. I do like a binder. It was, what was it? Sweet Baby Ray's, the guy that does
Mm,
all their stuff.
yeah.
Um, I watched a lot of. I follow his account on Instagram, um, and he hit me with something of using Duke's mayo as a binder. And since then, I've found that I think it makes my pulled pork juicier and like that color that you were talking about. I think it's richer. So I think I am a fan of the binder. Now that being said, there are times where it's just like, well, I don't have enough mayo for it, and I want to make a sandwich, so the sandwich is going to win. So it's either Duke's mayo or nothing. With my seasoning, I usually go with the double tap in bang and board dust. I've tried a couple other different ones, from Meat Church to Cosmos Q to whatever I found at Ace, and I just think the flavor that comes from the bang and board dust is the best. So a good healthy coating of that, let it rest a little bit, and then while that's resting, fire up the pellet smoker. Just in all fairness, I am a cheater. Pellet smoker, set it and forget it. As long as that hopper's full, you're probably good to go.
Yeah, you're smoking meat. That's all it matters.
Yeah. So I run it at 225. If it's something where I've got just an outstanding amount of time, I'll take it at like 165 and run it there for a couple hours just to make it extra smoky. Have I noticed a difference in the smoke ring or anything like that? Maybe not. But in my mind, it makes sense. Yeah. So,
well, you're imparting smoke for a longer period of time, so you are going to get more.
Right. So if I do that, that's usually an hour or two, and then I kick it up to 225, and we stay there through the rest of the cook. At about that 165, 167 is when I usually pull it, wrap it the same way with the apple cider vinegar. Usually don't use much apple juice or apple cider or anything like that. It's usually just the vinegar. Wrap it, send it back on till 200, 203, and then let it rest until I don't monitor it coming down. I'll let it rest for a while, and then when I feel like I can start pulling it apart, I'll go in and start pulling it
without scorching your hands.
Yeah. That's probably something I'll start looking at is watching it to see when it comes back down, because there's definitely a difference from pulling it when it's hot and warm to where it's like, all right, I just need to finish the cook. Let's get it in the 100%. Fridge. Yeah. I'll get it the next day. Like that, it's a giant pain in the ass the next day.
Yes, for sure. For sure.
But at the same time, I don't want to burn my fingers off any more than I already have.
Correct.
Afterwards, after I get it all pulled, I do go back and I season it some more, and it's amazing the amount of seasoning that it can take.
Correct.
So it tastes good coming off, but I like the bang and board dust. I like Meat Church's why can't I think of it? It's the one with jalapeno in it. Holy Voodoo.
Yes. Yep. I've got it right in the kitchen right now.
Yeah. Love it. That's all I use on my wings is the Holy Voodoo. But I like those flavors, and depending if I'm doing it for like some Cubans or just pulled pork, I might change it up a little bit, maybe more Holy Voodoo, give it a little spice, but then more apple cider vinegar and more seasoning, really mix it, get it incorporated really well. And you always got that buddy that's standing next to you that you're like, here, try this. What does it need?
Yep.
And exactly every time they're like, oh, damn, that's good.
So when you pull it off, do you retain any of the juice that's in the bottom?
I do for a little bit. So I'll save, I'll take it out of the pan I cooked it in. I'll put it in another one.
Yeah.
And then I'll pull it apart in my like cutting board basin thing. And then it goes back into the second pan. So I'll save that juice from the first one. Yes. And if it needs a little bit more,
exactly right,
I'll dump that back into the pulled pork.
Yes.
I also had a buddy that he cooked it the day before, and he was asking me about reheating it. I was like, well, you can take some beef broth, you can take some chicken broth, something like that. You don't want to use just water because there's no flavor in that.
Correct.
Put something in there that's going to give it some flavor. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me before, but save that liquid from the cook and use that when you go to reheat it.
100%.
So,
100%.
Something I have to write down and log in the back somewhere. But
So when it comes time for you, you're done. You've had the portions that you want. What do you do with your leftovers?
The leftovers, there's usually not much, which is a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a very good thing.
Because there's been times that I'll try it, and it's like, yeah, it's fine, and everybody else loves it. There's something about smoked meats in general. It doesn't matter if you think it's good or not. Everybody else that's eating it, unless it's absolutely terrible, they love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've had the conversation many times that people love the idea of smoked meats. They love smoked meats, but they don't have the palate for it yet.
Yeah.
And once they start getting the palate, they can start discerning what they really like about it and what they don't like. And then they'll start seeking those styles out because, you know, every region has its own style, has its own method, has its own way. So when I do my pulled pork and I get done, if I have leftovers, I package them 1 pound to a vacuum seal bag.
Okay.
So when it comes to reheating that, I sous vide it.
Okay.
And
that's a great call.
It retains, because you vacuum seal it, so it's retaining all that moisture in that vacuum seal bag. And then when you sous vide it, you're only taking it to the exact temperature you want for service.
Yeah.
And you're not overcooking it again. You're not drying it out. You're not doing any of that kind of stuff. So my opinion, what I found doing this is it comes out even a little bit better than it did the day you cooked it, because we all know that when you smoke meats and then put it in plastic, put it in a container, that smoke flavor intensifies. So that's been the key for me, is I've been able to do that and improve the flavor that you're not normally going to get.
Yeah, that's a strong point. You guys should write that down. Definitely record that. Yeah, no, it's just been like, if it's enough. If it's so much that it can't go into a smaller container, just cover the pan, throw it in the fridge, and we'll eat it till I can get it in a Ziploc bag. But that's a great idea. That sous vide is, again, you're cooking it to a set temperature that you want. Do you do that with your brisket?
I do it with brisket.
And you do it with everything?
Yeah.
That's fucking strong.
Yeah.
Sorry, FCC violation 1.
That's all right.
That's all right.
It's going to happen a lot, I have a feeling. Did we get the waiver for this one? I know we did for the trailer. Did we get it for,
we're not doing it for any of them.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah. So, So what seasonings? What wood are you using to smoke it, and what seasoning do you use on your meat?
So, 90% of what I'm smoking with is hickory and oak, and I do try to separate the two. So I have I'm using a Lang 84D and a Lang 48. And I try to keep my wood ratio 3 pieces of oak to 1 piece of hickory. The oak carries the BTUs, the hickory carries some flavor. Now we can look right out the window over here and see a wood pile that has a bunch of cherry in it. Cherry is good, in my opinion, for light flavored meats, chicken, pork, that sort of thing. But it does not produce the BTUs that the oak does that we need to raise that temperature to get it cooked. So the seasoning that I primarily use on pork is banging boar dust. Now, banging boar dust came from the Double Tap Inn. I had a wild boar that I wanted to do something with, and just so happened we were having a little competition around here. And I worked on a rub for a very long time to bring out the flavor of the wild boar. Now I'm on truth be told, I'm probably on the 6th or 7th version, of banging boar dust since day one. But this version right now is by far the best version that we've done. It's absolutely, in my opinion, it's the best pork rub that I've ever had. And I've tried a bunch of commercial stuff. I'll tell you, there's 13 ingredients in it. I will not disclose ever what 2 of them are. And you've seen me post about the expense of one. The last time I posted about it, it was $76 a pound.
Wow.
And it's gone up since then. It's just, buying economics. It is what it is.
Worth every penny.
It is pretty pretty decent. I like it.
Yeah, the rub overall worth every penny.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know what that ingredient is, but the rest of it, again, getting into this, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, let's get this spice, let's get this spice, let's get this spice, let's get that, and I have a lot of the same shit,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
not shit
Yeah.
because it's all good,
Yeah.
but it's all the same blend of spices,
Correct.
and it's all the same. Like the parts of it are all the same size.
Correct.
The nice thing about the Bang and Board dust I like is that it's different sizes, and the granules are different sizes. It's
Correct.
all not this fine powder. It's like you've got some bigger pieces, you got some smaller pieces, and it just works.
Yes.
It's just good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first batches that I went through, probably the first 4 or 5, it was very paprika forward,
Okay.
and paprika can be off-putting.
Mm-hmm.
I also learned that when you're using the amount of paprika I was using, it has a tendency to clump. And I was having a big problem when people were going to apply it. Clumps were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent a batch literally from St. Louis to Georgia to Pennsylvania. They went everywhere. And give me your honest opinion. You're not going to hurt my feelings. You're not going to do anything. Just give me your honest opinion. And that was one of the biggest things that people were saying was, we don't like the clumpiness, and we also don't like it being paprika forward.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very can be a very strong flavor. So I made some adjustments, did the same thing again, and yep, you're still paprika forward. Yep, not a problem. So made some adjustments in and came back to just about what it is today. And I went from, let's say, 6 parts paprika, I'm down to like 1.5 parts paprika. I mean, it was that much of a change that we made. And it just, I should have done that from the beginning, but I was so fixated on being paprika forward for that color. You know,
Yeah.
when you start smoking, you've got to have paprika for the color. You got to have this, you got to have that. And folks, I'm going to tell you, when you're smoking meat, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you use an electric smoker, a charcoal fire smoker, a pellet smoker, a offset, a reverse flow. I don't care what it is. Smoke meat. I mean, it's just that simple. You're doing a craft that when you first do it, you're doing it. Okay, I'm just going to smoke a piece of meat, and it's fine. You don't get into the ins and outs and the science of it and all that. Once you get good at it, you'll find that it is an art form. It's a craft. It's a science. And that's when you're going to start really making improvements in your smoked meats. It's you can go as far as you want or as little as you want and produce good barbecue. But once you produce that next level barbecue, you won't look back. You'll never look back. And it's just for me. It's been, most people don't know. Well, most people do know around here, but the audience might not know that I had a traumatic brain injury. And my doctor told me, you need to get a hobby or you're going to go crazy. And I went, I'm already crazy.
You did both.
Jesus, here we go. So I had been right, exactly right. So I've been smoking meat at that point, probably 10 or 11 years, 12 years probably. And all right, so I'll get into building fishing rods. I'll do this, do that. But while I'm doing that, I'm also smoking meat. And people start tasting Hickman's meat in your mouth. You know, it came out and literally. And so I started getting requests for, can you cook a pork butt for dinner? Can you do this? Can you do that? Yeah, absolutely can. That's when I started getting to the science of it, because people really wanted my meat. They wanted quality meat. And that spurred me on even more to carry that craft to the next level, the next level, the next level. So getting back to the wild boar that I had, cooked it. It was the best thing that I had ever done to that point. It was fantastic. So then I start searching. I went to the guy who had the wild boar before. I say, hey, you got any more? I say, yeah, I got all you want. We killed a whole bunch in South Carolina, and I can hook you up. I'm going to get rid of it. Well, good. Let me have a bunch of it.
Nice.
So that's just how that particular spice came about, and it works very well for a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So in the pellet smoker that I have, it's a Camp Chef. I could tell you what the dimensions are. I don't really know, but it's big enough
Mm-hmm.
for 3 chickens, 2 pork butts, and a brisket.
Yeah.
One at a, like each at a
Yep,
time,
yep.
not all at once. Um, and I use just a blend. I've tried
Mm-hmm.
the different bags of apple, pecan, hickory, mesquite, whatever, and I don't know if I'm not there yet, but I can't taste the difference in the smoke. Um, so I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go back to a blend.
Yep.
That way, it's everything that runs through it. It's all
Yep.
a combination of all of that. I will say the one exception was I did a brisket with pecan pellets, and it was much sweeter than any other brisket I had done, which was interesting. I thought
Yeah,
that was
sure.
the one time I've noticed it. Since then, like I said, I've gone back to a blend. Um, so that's what I use, and then yeah, like I said, it's the Bang and Boar dust, unless we're doing something where it's got to pair specifically with something else,
Yeah.
and then it's very specific to whatever that is. And even getting into that, like, what are your thoughts on, sometimes we just get a little too fancy, and I think
Oh yeah.
more specific to a conversation about beef, but salt, pepper, garlic,
Oh,
like
100%. Yeah.
that. What else do you need?
Yep.
You know?
So a lot of people, I think, when they smoke, they overthink.
Mm-hmm.
They overthink what they're doing. They overanalyze. They stress over. And we
Mm-hmm.
discussed this a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
earlier. We start talking some of the bigger pieces of meat. They're expensive. And when you're and we'll get into another episode when we discuss beef and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of stuff. But you're spending a lot of money on a chunk of meat, and you don't want to fuck it up, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
It is at worst case scenario is, and at 225 you're not, or even 250 you're not going to burn it to hell.
Mm-mm.
So you're still going to end up with something to eat, and
Yeah.
it's going to be an educational experience for sure. Don't stress. It's supposed to be relaxing. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a lot of things. Stressful isn't one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So just, if you're getting started, just take your time, go buy a chunk of meat, throw it on your smoker, and enjoy the process, because it is a process.
Yeah. I remember the first piece of brisket I did, and I'm sure I talked to you about it at the time, but it was in Food Line. It was like a 1 pound piece of brisket,
Right.
and I was scared to death.
Yep.
A 1 pound piece of brisket, like,
Yep.
holy cow! I don't want to mess this up. Again, it was for a piece of brisket, even though it was just a pound. It was expensive, and the first time giving it a shot, and it was a piece of flat, which, like, and it's 1 pound.
Yeah.
So your wiggle room for
Is-
smoking a 1 pound piece of brisket flat is almost like you're cooking a steak.
Yep.
Basically.
100%.
Like
That's what you're doing.
that's all that you're
Yes.
doing.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, you might as well, like, you're not even smoking this thing. Like, you are, but you're not. So I found, and I've told people, like, because they'll get a Traeger, or they'll get a smoker, and they'll ask me why. I have no idea, but they'll ask me, hey, what should I do? What about this? What about that? I was like, fuck it, get a brisket and get the biggest one you can get.
Yep. 100%.
They're like, that $100 brisket? Yep. Absolutely. And you know why? Because if it's 15 pounds, 18 pounds, whatever it is, like, you have a ton of wiggle room.
Yep.
You're going to cook it to 165, and then you're going to wrap it, and you're going to cook it to 200.
Yep.
You know how long that
100.
takes at 200 degrees, 225 degrees, 250 degrees? It's going to take forever. But it gives you that time to watch it, to not stress about it, to, like, oh, well, it's only moved up 1 degree in 2 hours. That's okay.
Yep.
Like, you're not going to mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing with a pork butt. You do whatever you want to with it, but then you got time. Once it goes on the grill, you got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time.
We'll get into later on. We'll get into things like thermal mass, and more in the scientific aspect of smoking meats. People think that you're just going to fire up their smoker at 225 and slap a 15-pound piece of meat on it, and it's going to stay there, or it's going to do this, and it should be done in this amount of time. You're not cooking in grandma's oven with a pot roast. You know what I mean? It's going to take time. You're going to learn a lot, and again, getting back to what I said earlier, just enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And it is just enjoy the process. And at the end of the process, you're going to have something tasty to eat.
Yeah, 100%. So let's talk about the end of the process. So you get it pulled, seasoning, extra seasoning if you want or not, whatever else you're going to do to it before you serve it. How are you serving it? What are you putting? What are you eating with it? What are you putting on it? What are you doing?
You're baiting me. I know what you're doing here. So, fuck sauce. I mean, I'm just going to tell you that.
There it is.
I'm going to tell you right up front. People who sauce their meat don't have any idea what they're doing. And I'm just going to say it. If you're offended, you're offended. I mean, it is what it is.
It's 2024. Get over it.
Yeah, exactly right. So you are absolutely killing the soul of the person who cooked the meat. They put a lot of time and attention into the seasoning. They did that on purpose. They cooked with a purpose. They have served it with a purpose. And I am of the belief that if it was served with sauce in it, that's how the chef meant it to be. Don't disrespect the chef by adding sauce without at least trying the meat first. I'm not going to hit you as hard if you try it and then sauce it. I'm still going to hit you, but it won't be, you'll get 40% power.
Yeah.
It is, again, it's a lack of education, a lack of etiquette, whatever you want to say when it comes to that. Don't randomly sauce the meat because that's what you grew up doing. Try it. Try it without the sauce. I guarantee you're going to love it because then you're getting the full effect of the rub.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that stuff's not by accident.
No.
You know, that it takes a lot of creativity, a lot of time, a lot of effort to get that spice and that flavor profile that you're looking for. Don't disrespect the chef. I guess that's the best thing I can say.
Yeah. Now, like you did mention, taste it first,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you're a sauce guy, you like a barbecue sauce to go with it.
Yep.
See if there's one that's there. You know, there's a lot of people that take a lot of time when they're making their barbecue that they also make their own sauce
to go with the flavor of their rub. And yes, absolutely.
Yep. And that combination is going to be fantastic. However, you know, I don't like a sauce. A little apple cider vinegar, which I'll put in the meat when I'm mixing it all up. But that's kind of where I am. Other than that, I'm not eating anything else like on it, with it, like as far as that goes.
Yeah.
You know, as far as the rest of my plate, man, I hope there's some mac and cheese on there.
Oh,
why not?
Smoked mac and cheese?
Yep.
Little bacon in it? Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hey, let me hit you with something. You ready? You sitting down? Good. Little jalapeno in there. Little pepper jack cheese.
Yes.
As one of your cheeses to go in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So we use a jalapeno queso.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
And it is, I'm telling you, to change your life. And then about 4 hours later,
it changes your life.
You know, it's just how it goes. But yeah, we discovered that. And I can't take credit for our mac and cheese. That's all Jennifer. She does the mac and cheese. And she has perfected that craft. And so we discovered that, oh, let's try this. And everything has been made since and has been with jalapeno.
Oh, yeah.
And that jalapeno queso.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Can't go wrong.
No.
Can't go wrong. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Until, like you said, 4 hours later.
Yeah, it all comes out in the end. It's fine.
Literally, it all comes out in the end.
As long as you don't bleed. And if you do,
oh, well.
You'll heal up eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be another upcoming show. We're going to go over, once the weather gets nice, we're going to take this show on the road. And by what I mean by on the road is like out to Hickman's backyard. And we're going to go over setting up our pork and getting it on the smoker and see what happens and give you a clip at the end. So that's our plan. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
some shows are gonna be like this, some shows are not.
Lord knows.
Yeah, but
When you brought that up about we're going to get into this, I thought you were going to talk about the rectal bleeding. I was going to say I don't know how we're going to get a demonstration for that, but we'd worked it out also.
what I didn't want to bring this up. What's that giant pink thing over there? Because it's
That
not going to my butt.
you see the suction cup? Bet.
So, but that's our show for today. Thanks for joining us. This was Pulled Pork at the Wayward Souls at the Double Tap Inn, and thanks for joining us.